Hey guys, SeanB. Today we have the balance patch note after SWC, after the stage tournament, so we can start fresh and have a very impactful balance patch to go into 2025. Starting off with the Vampire Light Nerf. So if you own a Vampire Light out there, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but your skill 2 just got nerfed, as is the Vampire Light can stun if you crit, which you should most of the time, and now the stun will be 50% without any condition. And because I think the Vampire Light double hit with the skill 2, it is a decent chance to stun still, but it's not like a very much guaranteed stun with the skill 2 anymore. So before, if you were counting on the stun, then maybe you should not count on the stun too much moving forward. I'm not sure how consistent it will be, but it'll be a bit less consistent because we went from double hit and each hit can stun because I assume your Vampire Light is gonna crit all the time, to 50% chance per hit. And the next one is going to be Giana Nerf. Unbelievable. No, it's fine. I understand that. Giana Nerf, stun chance on target without buff will go down to 85% and not 100% anymore. So similar to the Vampire Light Nerf, the unit will still do the same thing, but not as consistent as before. Giana will still strip stun or stun the enemy without any buff on them. Just not as good as before. I'm okay with that. She's really good anyway. So that would not make her any less good, to be honest. Asura Dark, I think this one is a nerf. I'm not exactly sure. So the threat state for the passive will go from 50% HP or above to 70% HP or above. So you have to be rather healthy to gain the threat state. I think Asura Dark overall is a very strong unit on defense. I'm not sure how strong it is in G3 anymore, but I think overall Asura Dark is a very, very solid unit and also pretty good for offense against the light element, let's say Asher on defense. So a small nerf to the Dark Asura doesn't really change what he can do. So I think Dark Asura is still going to be a very solid unit. Puppeteer All. The Horse Rider puppet will now lose the recovery amount going from 15% to 10%. So they nerfed the healing or the skill 1 a little bit. I think the healing for the skill 1 of all the Puppeteer are really amazing. I used to think that was a nerf, losing the attack bar gain, but the healing is insanely good. And they're nerfing that a little bit. Puppeteer Fire would now grant 2-turn silence on the targeted enemy. So it used to grant 1-turn silence on all of them, but now I think it can grant 2-turn silence on one of the enemy to prevent them from proccing out of the CC that the Fire Puppeteer can land on them. So that's pretty good. So you're probably going to put the 2-turn silence on Cigar or Velaju. Next up, we have the Fire Megumi, one of my most wanted fire unit in the game right now for RTA because it's a fire speed lead, defense break, strip stun, cut in between stuff. Very, very fun. Sort of a free-to-play berg heal. And they will now allow the skill 2 to lose 1 more turn in cooldown so you can strip stun with skill 2 much more frequently. So this will make Fire Megumi or Tetsuya even better. Next, we have the Dark Megumi. In the past, it will strip into pushback and attack break. And now it will strip into pushback, into attack break, and defense break. Another unit that can strip AoE into defense break. Very, very strong setup for any follow-up damage out there. The sad thing is that it only defense break for 1 turn. But if you build your team right and you land your strip defense break, then you can pretty much one-shot the enemy team. No problemo whatsoever. So now Dark Megumi, I think, is very, very scary for high damage team, especially the LD Exodia kind of player. Another strip defense pick option. Let's say Kill and Bow, for example. He can pick Veronica and Dark Megumi, and then you either get reset or get defense break and die to his follow-up damage like a Zeraf or whatever. So I think that's a solid buff to the Dark Megumi right there, allowing him to strip defense break. For a casual player, I think if you have this unit, it is like a better Gemini because you can push back the attack bar as well. A 5-star unit has better stat and better follow-up skill. You can use it to strip defense break for any damage dealer you want in Siege or Arena. So you're gonna have a solid cleave enabler unit if you have a Dark Megumi. Next up, we have the Water Yuji. So Water Yuji will now create a shield on itself if it kills the enemy. So if you know Raki, right? Raki can put soul protection on herself after she defeats an enemy. So Water Yuji can kind of do the same thing because he's also kind of doing the same thing as Raki. He can now put a shield on himself, which is very cool, but I don't think that's going to be very game-changing for Water Yuji. Fire Yuji will increase damage dealt by 50% to those whose HP is not destroyed. So that is a insane damage buff to Fire Yuji. And because you are using it, let's say in the first turn to do a lot of damage and destroy the enemy HP, that's going to allow you to destroy even more HP because you are doing more damage. So I think that's going to make Fire Yuji's skill do much better damage. That's going to be the skill 3 right there, the most important one. So that is an insane damage buff for Fire Yuji. I hope that's going to allow him to be a little bit better at doing damage because that's the whole point of the unit anyway. Fire Wind Dark Yuji. I think skill 2 will now have crit rate increased to 100% when attacking enemy with harmful effect. So 100% crit rate is really good. So these units, you don't really need to build crit rate into them. Yuji can kind of just becoming a unit that can crit all the time without much crit rate. But max crit rate is different from guaranteed crit because if you're hitting the opposite element, you will now have 85 crit rate, not max, okay? Unlike Chandra crits all the time. Doesn't matter. 100% crit rate means you crit most of the time in most situations, unless you're fighting enemy from the opposite element, or maybe they have a glancing sort of aura like Molly, Light Horse, or they have minus crit aura or passive of the Acroma, for example. Then that situation can be a bit tricky. But most of the time, I think the Yuji family are going to crit like crazy. Wind Nobara will increase attack bar when she get harmful effect. So only for herself, I think it's gonna be good because she needs to move to use her passive to take away health of the enemy. So that's very cool. That's an attack bar gain mechanic for a unit that need to get a turn to be useful. And that is very important for Wind Nobara. I think that's a great buff right there. 30% is a lot. And because you are probably gonna pick her against team that has AoE debuff, that's gonna be very good as well. The Wind Nobara, solid stuff right there. I like that. Light Nobara will recover HP after using the special skill 3. So she's becoming more and more like a Molong with inbuilt vampire and no cooldown, which is very, very cool. I think she has a use in Siege. Not really an RTA unit, so you don't see her often on like YouTube or whatever, but I think with the recover health inbuilt with provoke, being able to tank and doing raw HP damage all the time, she's gonna be a pretty solid Siege bruiser, and I like that. And now you can build on Violent and you don't even need a healer with her maybe, and she's gonna be alive, doing good damage, tank really well. Pioneer Fire Wind Dark North Star Wisdom will now change from won't land as a glancing hit to always land as a critical hit. So the Fire, Wind and Dark Pioneer skill 2 will always crit, which is great because that will allow them to do more damage consistently, especially for the Dark and the Fire one, because the Wind one is a cleaver, right? If you use the Wind Pioneer, you're probably going to build Wind Pioneer with max crit anyway. But for the Fire and the Dark one, they are support unit. They are not necessarily built on max crit, and now their skill 2 can crit all the time, which means they'll do more damage in general. Also above the Ragdoll. Any unit that suddenly can crit all the time is a buff to Ragdoll. If you happen to use them and you find Ragdoll in RTA, then, you know, that sucks to be you. Fucking Ragdoll. She's getting buff all the time in all these different balance patches. Dokkaebi Lord Water is getting buff. Oh my god. Going from recover HP by 30%, his own health, to everybody's health by 20%. So they saw that, hey, Les didn't win the world champion. He was using Water Dokkaebi Lord. So let's buff that. Because he didn't win the world champion. So they nerfed the world champion unit, Giana, and they buffed the runner-up unit, Water Dokkaebi Lord. Seems kind of fair to me. So, dude. Water Dokkaebi Lord is one of my most wanted water unit in the game right now because I don't have the unit, and they just make me want the unit even more because he's a very tanky unit, high base speed, can AoE control, can strip, have a very strong skill 1. So even if you reset him, he can still stun the shit out of you. And now you can heal the entire team. Holy shit, that is so good. So I don't have Fire Megumi. I don't have Water Dokkaebi Lord. I'm jealous of people who have them because I want them. Valkyrie Light will now gain attack bar when allies are hit by non-critical attack. Ooh, that is really good. So in RTA, when you are fighting CC team, you'll be picking Light Valkyrie because she's immune to debuff. And CC team usually don't have max crit, which means they will give Light Valkyrie attack bar all the time. And Light Valkyrie will silence into violent proc, increase cooltime, into silence to gain attack bar all the time. And that's gonna make her even more annoying. I hate Light Valkyrie, by the way, just saying. And now she can gain attack bar all the time and silence your team. I think she'll be especially deadly against, let's say, Ethna turn 1. If she AoE thing, then you can cut in between and silence the Ethna, maybe with like 20% attack bar gain. Or let's say you're fighting a Robo. A Robo cannot absorb your attack bar. Wind Robo, for example. Then when Wind Robo spin to strip, he also take off the immunity in turn 1. And then the Akroma can cut in between and then silence the Wind Robo and stop the Wind Robo from stunning your team. That can be another use case. I think overall, just picking Akroma against a CC team, and now Akroma can gain attack bar in between and silence the follow-up unit, it can be quite interesting. Dragon Dark will now recover a turn instantly, not attack bar full, instant turn. Very important, very strong when you defeat an enemy. So the Dark Dragon, after he spit on the enemy, AoE, and managed to kill one of them or two, gain a turn instantly, has another follow-up AoE attack to kill whatever is surviving. That makes the Dark Dragon very, very cool. It is coming closer to the Talisman tier. Talisman buff his own stat, which is insane. But Dark Dragon has some sort of anti-revive, if I remember correctly, which is really good for Arena Cleave. I think that's gonna make Dark Dragon sort of balanced to the Fire Dragon because Fire Dragon is very meta and very strong right now. But Dark Dragon can now do more damage overall, potentially, with the follow-up AoE skill too. I think that's gonna be very, very cool. And maybe that's gonna make Dark Dragon good for RTA too, for like sort of full LD cleave. Monkey King Win will lose the attack bar increase. I never felt that attack bar increase really did anything for him anyway. To remove one beneficial effect from the enemy when you counter attack. Whoa! With the passive, which is the main point of the Wind Monkey. That is. Oh no. You know, when I picked Wind Monkey, when you find, let's say, a more Chungpung, no more Chungpung nowadays, more Oliver, Cigar, Wind Robo kind of stuff, you pick the Wind Monkey. But the problem is, most strong player in turn 1, they have Will Runes. And your Wind Monkey can revenge turn 1, but it will not stun. But now, when you counter with the Stone Monkey passive, you will strip and stun at the same time in the first turn. That can be kind of crazy. And if they have immunity, with the Velager immunity, no shield added like Usa, it can still revenge and stun the enemy, Oliver for example. But it will not strip if you are countering with a revenge set though, only from the passive. So attacking the Wind Monkey is still the way to counter it and not getting revenge and stun in the face too easily. But I think overall, when Monkey can revenge, strip, stun at the same time, that makes the Wind Monkey really good. And I think he is arguably better than Automel because when you equip Automel with Despair, Automel can revenge, strip with the skill 1 because that is the skill 1 effect, and stun with Despair. The Monkey stun is better. The strip is 100% as well because it just say remove one beneficial effect. So Monkey King revenge maybe less, but the actual revenge is better than Automel, I think. But because it's a wind unit, you can't exactly stun fire unit that easily. But a lot of control unit are wind and water. So that is gonna make it really good. Especially Cigar, who has to AoE all the time anyway. You can strip, revenge the Velajul immunity and stun the Cigar in the middle of his fucking control shenanigans. So when you're fighting Oliver, Cigar, they don't have stun in their kit. Chandra doesn't really stun often nowadays anyway, because most Chandra are on Vile. So I think this is a soft counter to the Chandra, Cigar, Velajul, Oliver. because they all don't really have a lot of stun. They have the immunity from the Villager, but the monkey can now strip that and stun them. So I think the fact that they are not nerfing Chandra Cigar Villager and buffing the Wind Monkey in this kind of way is a way that, hey, use the Wind Monkey and do something about the meta. I think that's the message they're trying to send. Twin Angel, Fire Wind Dark, Horn of Cheer will now grant immunity and oil eyes for 2 turns. That is not too bad, but the problem with the Wind Twin Angel is that it awakens into resistance, which ruining the Wind Angel is very annoying. Fire one, I think, has a use against Julian. Dark one, I'm not really too sure, but the Wind one, I think to be good, need to change the awakening to accuracy or speed. That will make the Wind Twin Angel much more enjoyable to use instead of looking at the fucking resistant awakening and feel kind of shitty about it. Twin Angel Light will now strip better. Right, Geki, my friend, is getting happy reading this line because I think they are calling the Light Twin Angel like a fake Wind Robo, Dark Robo kind of vibe because the strip pushback is not consistent. But now the strip is going to be consistent, which means Light Twin Angel might be a much more reliable counter to Heigang or just a very solid unit in general to be paired with Ciara. Cannon Girl Win. Passive. They're buffing this unit again. I think she's in a very good spot already, but they're buffing her again. When the passive effect is stacked up to 5 times, remove all harmful effect. Ooh, excluding inability effect. Oh. From yourself at the start of the turn. So I use Wind Cannon Girl against a lot of, let's say, Vanessa, Byung-chun, Camilla. And the problem with Wind Cannon Girl is getting stunned by Byung-chun randomly. So that's the problem. Or increased cooltime by Vanessa. The good thing about this is that I guess she can remove the defense break from the Vanessa, if anything. I'm not too sure, but at the start of your turn. So she needs to get a turn to remove the effect. So the only effect that really stops her from doing her thing is attack break, which is not presented on most AD. I think it's mostly the stun or the defense break that make her die or useless. So I don't think that's a very good buff. It's just great to have, but like it's not very practical. Paladin Water and Dark. I like that. Effect added. When attacking enemy without beneficial effect, provoke the enemy for 2 turns. Oh, I like. Okay, Water Paladin, most of you guys have. It's gonna be great when you are provoking something that doesn't have buff. Now 2 turns. Very, very cool. Dark one, 2 turn provoke. Very, very cool. I like that. The time that I picked the Dark Paladin, she's mostly there to solo. So at the end of the day, she's provoking the enemy for 20 billion turn because they only attacking her. So there's nobody else to attack. When she's soloing 4 enemy, they are all provoked to her. It's just that when I'm provoking the Ragdoll, it's not going to provoke 2 turns. If the Ragdoll Violent proc, it cannot ignore defense me. Oh my god. That's going to make my solo montage even better. I like that. Buffing my LD5 while nerfing my LD5. Good job, Countess. You are not forgiven. Anyway, moving on next to Geralt Wind and Dark. Ooh, the first attack install bomb with a 90% chance now. I like that. The Wind Geralt finally has a 100% chance to land bomb. Finally. I think finally the Wind Geralt might be usable. Okay? And Dark Geralt will now only need... Wait, does he need any buff anymore to land his bomb? I'm not too sure. But I don't have him, so... I think the problem with Wind Geralt is that his damage bonus doesn't buff his bomb damage. That is so stupid, by the way. His whole thing is a bombing. And the Wind Geralt passive, the Dark Geralt passive, was supposed to buff his damage output. But it doesn't buff the bomb damage. It's kind of lame. But Wind Geralt might be usable. Yennefer Fire. As is, she will spread random, but she will now spread harmful effect to enemy with the highest attack bar. I like that. No more stupid randomness. Okay? And that is very, very cool. I have her. I'll try her again. Yennefer Light. She will now increase attack bar of herself and the ally with the highest attack bar by 20% and remove 1 harmful effect. I think this might make her super solid in siege offense. She's like the 4-star Heigang. She's getting very close to the 4-star Heigang at this point. because when you fight Clara and Dark Siri, they will AoE strip you and then they will put a debuff on you. She will now remove the harmful effect and increase attack bar. And then you can counter strip and do things on the enemy team. But her whole thing is silence and oblivion. A lot of people don't really put unit with strong passive on each defense. Or maybe they do, because the meta in G3 and G2 and G1 is very different. The meta from server and server is also very different. So I think Light Siri is getting very close, or she is a very solid unit for offense right now with that hey gang-ish passive right there. Chakram Dancer Dark. Whoa, Chakram Dancer Dark. Who are you? Who you, girl? Max cooldown reduced to 4 turns. I don't know. I think she's not really usable or practical in any shape or form, even with a cooldown reduction. It's just what she does, right? She's stripped into dots, which is like kind of lame. Nailstone Fighter Fire and Dark. Skill 2 will not land as a glancing hit. Ooh, that will allow the Fire and Dark, or mostly Fire, will hit water better, but nobody's really using Fire Nailstone Fighter for anything in particular. He doesn't really work well against anything. And he's just gonna die very quickly as well, even with the strong passive. In the past, he was very cool. He was very tanky when people runes are shit. But nowadays, he's just not good anymore. Nailstone Fighter, Water, Wind, Light. Sharp Strike will now brand instead of dot. I think branding is like a PvE debuff. So that is not very practical because none of the... Oh wait, the Light Nailstone Fighter brand... Oh, that is just the Light Nailstone Fighter buff. Because he can brand now, and that will make him even better in PvE. The Water and Wind are just there for skill up, pretty much. So most people will have Light Nailstone Fighter via Horde Heroes if you're new to the game. I'm sorry to say that you don't have the unit, but because he's a strong PvE Rift Beast damage dealer, the branding is going to help your team do even more ridiculous damage. Sylph Spirit Throw will now lose the crit rate buff, which is amazing because none of the Sylph need that. And now it'll change to decrease enemy attack bar by 30% with a 75% chance. That is really good for the Water Sylph, the Fire Sylph for PvE. The Wind Sylph doesn't really need a crit rate buff because if you're using him, you are max crit out anyway. So that is really, really good. Asura Water will now always attack with advantageous attribute when attack power is maximized. I think when he full stack, he will attack with better attributes. So easier to crit, no glancing. That's cool if anyone actually care about this unit, but nobody really care about this unit. Fire Asura. They're buffing Asura because of the siege skin, maybe, so that they are more desirable and people will fight for that more competitively. But the problem is they're nerfing the one that people actually use. So that's kind of weird. But anyway, Asura Fire will have easier time getting more attack out of the skill 3, and Asura Light will now get free accuracy, which is very cool. Asura Water Fire Light will now have more attack coming out of their skill easier, but nobody really used that except for the light one, I think. So I'm not sure how that's gonna turn out. Nailstone Fighter Fire and Dark will now have better stats overall. The Fire one will have more HP, more attack, and less defense. Thank you very much. Finally, that makes sense. The Dark one get 100 more attack, which is going to be great if you're using the Dark Nailstone Fighter to snipe things that has a Triana protection. So let's say Carcano, whatever Triana. You're using the Dark Nailstone Fighter to snipe the Carcano, then it's going to be much easier to do so because he gets 100 more attack in the base stat. It might sound like not a whole lot, but if your runes are giving this guy so much more attack that 100 base can change everything. It will go from maybe doing 20k to like 30k. I'm speculating, okay? But that 100 base attack more is amazing. Leader skill. This is the part I like. Oh, I'm kind of blocking it a little bit. Leader skill for Mermaid. Oh my god, they all don't have leader skill. So now they do have leader skill. Mermaid Water, resistance. Lame. Mermaid Fire, speed, 24%. Yo, Fire Mermaid is a very solid unit, but she suffered from low base speed syndrome, and now she has speed leader, which make her so much more viable to be used. And she has a very cool skill that stun and increase cooltime. She can heal and revive. Very, very solid support overall. I like that. Wind Mermaid accuracy Light Mermaid defense, which can be good actually, and Dark Mermaid HP. I like that. So Fire, Light, Dark, leader skill, insane. Water and Wind, I'm not too sure about that, but hey, low rank, it might be usable. And Beast Monk, Water and Dark, in some languages, the term defend will be unified to ensure consistency. Can I just buff Dark Beast Monk? Like, is it that hard? I cry about every patch. They don't give two shit about Dark Beast Monk. But hey, Leona buff, that's pretty cool. Alright guys, overall, they did not touch the top RGB unit. There's no change to Ciara, Oliver, Chandra, Cigar, Velajul. None of that thing happened. They nerfed the top LDs, which makes sense. I cry about Julian nerf all the time. That's a small nerf right there. And they nerfed the Giana. They buffed some LD5 a little bit. I don't think that's going to be super game-changing. Maybe I'm going to hate Akroma so much. They buffed some of the collab unit from the current collab and the previous collab. And that is pretty much it. They didn't buff any of the other Gojo at all. And hopefully they will see more buff in the future. But overall, I think the patch is not the worst. We have some leader skill change. The only thing I would love to see more in this patch is the awakening change for many units. A lot of units awaken to resistance for no fucking goddamn reason, like Fire Gojo. Like, what's up with that? A lot of units awaken to the wrong shit. And I feel like the collab buff is always just... It should have been there since the start, okay? All of these collab things should have been there since the very start. They just make the unit and then they take things away and then they just add it in now so that they have less work in this balance patch, to be honest, okay? Because that is just how computers do things with new unit. They release new unit that are just garbage, pretty much. And then they have an excuse to put these lines into the balance patch to like, all right, now is the final form of what we wanted to release. Use it. Have fun. And maybe if it's still shit, we're going to buff it again. That's what they do with collab unit, in my opinion. Oh, shit. I totally skipped the Water Ryu line. Oh, my God. Water Ryu, I saw it, and I totally skip it. When attacked by an enemy, increase your attack power by... Who the fuck buff Water Ryu? Like, he's kind of okay, right? Like, he's fine. He's just a chill guy. And suddenly, he can now have attack buff when attacked by an enemy. He's gonna hit like a truck. We're like, what? Water Ryu is gonna hit so hard all the time with additional damage by attack. That is just kind of weird, but they buff Water Ryu. They're trying to bring it back. I mean, Chandra has been taking the spotlight. Water Ryu has been like the Sai-Ho between Chandra and Water Twin Angel. Water Ryu just kind of there. It's just kind of chilling. But I guess they buff Water Ryu too, which is kind of funny to see. Anyway, I hope that the Wind Monkey is going to be the answer to the Chandra Cigar Velajul meta and potentially Fire Megumi as well. Other than that, I'm not sure how the meta is going to turn out. I want Fire Megumi. I want Tetsuya. I want Water Dokubi Lord so fucking bad. Anyway, guys, hope there's going to be something impactful coming out of this and maybe new meta. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.